to refining and testing and implementing it. So she also showed us some of the components of the components of ideation. So there's brainstorming, where you come up with ideas, and then there's clustering, where you're grouping similar ideas together and you are voting for the best idea. Then there is concepting, which is now taking the selected ideas and building and really refining them. Yeah. So she did take us through also the rules of brainstorming. So as we see them, like, do not judge, come up with very bold, innovative ideas, even crazy ideas are allowed. Build the ideas of others. Do not shame anyone's idea by saying that's a good idea or a bad idea, and then focus on the topic that is being, or the problem or the challenge that's being solved. So that keeps you focused. Go visual. If you have to use pictures, if you have to draw, that's good. But the whole idea of brainstorming is to come up with as many ideas as possible. Yeah, so for today, our focus is going to be on the tools that we actually use within the ideation process. So these tools basically help you or guide you through that process of coming up with the ideas and the concepts. Yes, and I'll start by showing a video that summarizes the design thinking process very well. So just 1 second. So yeah, so I hope once it plays, I hope you guys are...
A long time ago, if humans wanted to move something, and as time went on, we were able to solve this problem and millions of others. In life, we're always bumping into new problems, and while we have the desire to solve them, it's often hard to find the right solution, or even know where to start. That's where design thinking comes in. Design thinking is a process that seeks to solve complex problems by approaching it from the user's perspective. It also aims to turn your ideas into tangible, testable products as quickly as possible. The design thinking framework can be drilled down into 3 distinct phases: immersion, ideation, and implementation. But if we zoom in a little bit, these phases can be broken down into 5 actionable stages that make up the entire design thinking process: empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. In the empathize stage, you'll get to know your target audience and paint a clear picture of who the users are, what challenges they face, and what they need. This can be achieved through interviews, user testing, surveys, basically by talking to people and understanding how they think, act, and feel. Based on what you learn, you'll then define your problem statement. When creating your problem statement, focus on the user's needs over the business goals. Keeping it human-centered is the theme here. This problem statement will act as your North Star. If you start to trail off or get lost, just look back to the problem statement to refocus. With our problem statement defined, we're ready to ideate. Keep in mind, innovation is rarely born in isolation. So don't fly solo. Get up from your desk, cubicle, or spaceship, gather some key individuals from other teams, and collaborate. The name of the game is quantity over quality. So think outside of the box and explore new angles. There are many ideation techniques to get you and your team started. A great reference is our Design Thinking Handbook by Eli Woolery. Check it out at designbetter.com. Next stop, prototyping. Prototypes come in all shapes and sizes, from basic paper models to interactive digital mock-ups. The goal is to have something tangible that can be tested on real people. Getting your prototype into the hands of real users will give you great insight on if the solution you provided is valid or if it needs some more work. Based on their feedback, you can make changes and improvements before spending the time and money building the real thing. Although these steps appear to be sequential, keep in mind, design thinking is less linear and more iterative. At each stage, you'll most likely discover new things that require you to go back and repeat a previous step. And there you have it, design thinking in a nutshell. Now get out there and start applying design thinking to your work today. You'll be glad you did. For more information on design thinking, head on over to envisionapp.com/inside design, and we'll see you in the next video.
Okay, great. Yes. So that was a good summary of the design thinking process. And this slide just showcases some of the topics we've already talked about. So as you see, there's the first phase, you're defining your problem. So you're seeking clarity on what subject area you want to focus on. Phase 2, you're finding out the needs of your target audiences, and you're using research, you're building empathy, you're having interviews and all that. And then at phase 3, you are ideating, coming up with as many ideas as possible. And these ideas, once you've selected the main ideas, then you carry them forward to the next phase, which is the prototyping. So I'd want to hear from one of you who can give us an example of their project and map this along the, oh my God, you guys didn't see the video? Okay. Hello?
No, it didn't play.
Oh no, I'm so sorry. Okay. Audio works. You were able to hear the audio, right?
Yes, we were.
Yes.
Okay. Maybe Tamara, because we already, do you mind maybe telling us, would you want to try map your project across this phase? So pretty much tell us what was the problem, definition, how did you go through the second phase, getting the information, and maybe where you're at as well, just a brief summary. Hello, can one person volunteer? Or you can just throw it in the chat. Any volunteers? I can see Ebenezer. Are you in a place where you're able to share? Anyone? Okay, can we confirm that we can hear? Oops, sorry guys. Hi, Lawrence. Maybe you can help me with getting a volunteer. I'm not sure who's there and who's not there. Yes.
Fia? So
I think I'm currently a bit behind because I'm struggling to actually get people to talk about I don't know. I'm struggling to actually interview people to get people to open up about their sex lives, I suppose, because mine has got to do with teenage pregnancy and the prevalence of STDs, the youth graphic.
Okay. Can we also hear from you, Tafazwa? Tafazwa or Ugondipu? If not Ugondipu, Abba and Ebenezer. Ebenezer or
Hi.
Ebenezer? Yeah, go ahead.
This is Abba. Okay, so I'm the phase 1 of my
problem. So I'm also working on teenage pregnancy and my phase 2, that my interview. Well, I haven't been able to do more interviews, but then I started off with how do you call it, the stakeholders involved, and then to one person from Ghana Health Service, that's a nurse, because I wanted to know, get my facts right with the number of people, or the number of young people, teenagers who visit hospital with such issues and how they treat them, because then I is one thing during the trends analysis, that usually the health workers are not too friendly when it comes to teenagers visiting the health sectors centers, sorry, and then does not encourage them to becoming there more often, leading to a whole lot of issues. So that is what I started doing, but I haven't been able to go back there to make a follow-up. Possibly within this week, I'll be doing more of the interviews, and then I'll report on them in our next meeting.
Okay, that's good. So, but I have a follow-up question for you. Have you been able to interview the teenagers themselves, or had any form of discussions or dialogues with them?
Not yet. As I said earlier, I haven't been able to dialogue with them yet. I started off with stakeholders, and then I was thinking through them, I would be able to get hold of more of them, because, you know, most of them are not too confident coming out with their big bellies, let me put it that way, their pregnancy, especially when it's, and the only place where you'll be able to get them is the health centers. So I had to go get the dates, the times where they visit there, and then get to know when exactly at the appropriate time I can get to interview any of them.
Okay, that's good. Okay, good. So yes, so thank you so much, both of you, for sharing. I think that's a good progress, I would say. Like, at least you have reached out to, let's say, one of the target audience, and you are planning to reach out to the adolescents. As we've learned in HCD, that if you're solving for, let's say, adolescents, then they're your primary audience. So it's important to find, yes, I think, the right ways to be able to engage them. And even in light of what you're saying, that a lot of them will be shy and, not want to come out, and, then you can find creative ways on where is the best place to meet with them, how do you make them comfortable, and that kind of thing. Because along the HCD process, it's very important to make sure that you keep track of the main problem that you're trying to solve. So that's why defining the problem is very important, because when you're defining the problem, you're defining who your target audience is, and you're able to make like the ideal plan. So in the case of this project of teenage pregnancies, for example, you talk to the health workers, you talk to the participants, and then the information you get is what you're going to use as the basis of your study or your idea, pretty much. Yes. Okay. So I think I'll just proceed to the next slide. Yes. So there's another video here. I hope this time around we can see it. So someone can just confirm. Can you guys see my YouTube screen?
Writing's not that easy, but Grammarly can help.
Yes.
This sentence
Perfect.
is grammatically correct, but it's wordy and hard to read. It undermines the writer's.
Design thinking is a 5-step process to come up with meaningful ideas that solve real problems for a particular group of people. The process is taught in top design and business schools around the world. It has brought many businesses lots of happy customers and helped entrepreneurs from all around the world to solve problems with innovative new solutions. Step 1. Empathize. The purpose of Step 1 is to conduct interviews that give you an idea about what people really care about. We need to empathize with their situation. For example, if you want to help old people, you might find that they want to keep the ability to walk around. In your conversations, they might share with you different ways they can do that. Later into the interview, you'll want to dig a little deeper. Look for personal stories or situations where things became difficult. Ideally, you redo the process with many people with the same problem. Step 2. Define the problem. Looking at the interviews, you can now understand the actual needs that people are trying to fulfill with certain activities. One way to do that is to underline the verbs or activities that the people mentioned when talking about their problems, like going for a walk, meeting old friends for tea, or simply going grocery shopping around the corner store. You might realize it's not so much about going out, but more about staying in touch. After your analysis, formulate a problem statement. Some elderly are afraid to be lonely. They want to stay connected. Step 3. Ideate. Now focus only on the problem statement and come up with ideas that solve the problem. The point is not to get a perfect idea, but rather to come up with many ideas, like unique virtual reality experiences, senior-friendly hoverboards, or a modified pushcart. Whatever it is, sketch up your best ideas and show them to the people you are trying to help, so you can get their feedback. Step 4. Prototype. Now take a moment to reflect on what you have learned from your conversations about the different ideas. Ask yourself, how does your idea fit in the context of people's actual lives? Your solution could be a combination of a new idea and what is already being used. Then connect the dots, sketch up your final solution, and go build a real prototype that's just good enough to be tested. Step 5. Test. Now test your prototype with actual users. Don't defend your idea in case people don't like it. The point is to learn what works and what didn't, so any feedback is great. Then go back to ideation or prototyping and apply your learning. Repeat the process until you have a prototype that works and solves the real problem. Now you are ready to change the world or open shop. To experience design thinking firsthand, do the free virtual design thinking crash course from
Okay, yes. So we'll go back to the slide. Can one person maybe tell me what's the highlight, what's the one you picked up from the video? Or you can throw it on the chat also. Yeah, okay. Any word, it can even be one word you've heard from the video, and feel free to throw it on the chat. Yes, maybe one or two. Then we can proceed from there.
I'm going to say something.
Okay.
Yeah, so here in the video, I understand that it is the process of solving problems.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's what I understand.
Thank you. I see Tafadzwa, you've raised your hand. Oh,
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
I picked on empathy, that when you are coming up with an idea, you are supposed to care about other people. And when you are doing that, you have to use interviews and also get their personal stories so that you'll be in the same position as they are. And after that, you then define the problem. Like now you are understanding the actual needs. You are actually analyzing the problem and coming up with a problem statement. Then you are going to take that problem statement and come up with a solution. That solution will also give you feedback. That feedback you then use for testing whether your idea is going to work or it's not going to work. And if it doesn't work, then it means you're going to repeat the process again for successful results. Thank you.
Great, thank you. That's a very good summary. That's well said. Yeah, so there's another video, but I can't click the link, so I'll just stop screen sharing, so I'm able to copy it. So this one focuses on the ideation phase itself, and gives more information on what is important when you are actually ideating. So I'll just play it. If the screen is not working or anything, just raise your hand and let me know.
Supermarket, fast delivery. If you have a real problem, brainstorming is a good way to come up with a solution or two. As the name suggests, the idea is that you storm on the neural pathways through the brain to pick a lot of thoughts quickly and intuitively. It's best to do this with a group of diverse people, so you have lots of different brains to explore. This leads to the creation of more ideas and maybe new solutions. Before you start, make sure you solve the right problem. Einstein said, to solve a problem, I would spend 55 minutes defining the problem and then 5 minutes solving it. Tina Seelig, a well-known professor on creativity, teaches to define a problem by reframing the question. For example, by simply asking why. Say you brainstorm ideas for a birthday party for your mum. You can ask, why do we organize birthday parties? You might then realize that we do them to make people feel special. Then ask, how can I make my mum feel special? Now a totally different idea might come up. Once you define the real problem, start. Here are 3 ways. Guided group brainstorming. First, get some markers and a whiteboard or some post-it notes. Then invite the participants. These are your brains. Company bosses, teachers or other authorities are advised to stay outside or facilitate. Their authority can intimidate shy people from speaking up. Then lay out the 4 ground rules of brainstorming. 1. Go for quantity. Get out all the ideas, no matter how silly. 2. Withhold criticism. There are no bad ideas. 3. Welcome crazy ideas. The wilder the better. 4. Build on other people's ideas. Listen to them first and then add yes and. Now you can start. Write the problem as a question on the whiteboard. Then ask all of your brains to throw in their ideas. As a facilitator, keep the discussion focused on the topic. To ensure that people don't speak over one another, you can provide a talking stick which is passed around. Note down all the ideas and put them up for everyone to see. Remind people to add on to ideas. If Anne thinks of, let's build a cool umbrella, Jay can say, yes, and let's make it one that flies too. If someone did kill a good idea, the facilitator can always bring it back to life to throw it back on the table. At the end of the session, see if there are 2 ideas that can be combined. In brainstorming, the slogan is 1 + 1 = 3. Then let the team vote to know which are the most popular ones. You can now either start with another round of brainstorming to build on those ideas, or if you are happy with the solution, bring it to an end. Finally, record your best ideas so you don't lose them. The nominal group technique. Explain the ground rules and present the problem. Then ask each person to write their ideas anonymously. Then collect the ideas and let the group vote on each idea. The top ranked ideas may be sent back to the participants or subgroups for further brainstorming. For example, one group may brainstorm on the form of a product, while the other focuses on the technical features. The group passing technique. Let people sit in a circle, explain the rules, and present the problem. Each person writes down one idea and then passes the piece of paper to the next person who adds some thoughts. This continues until everybody gets his or her original piece of paper back. By this time, it is likely that the group will have extensively elaborated on each idea. Let everyone explain their evolved idea and write each one up. You can then let the group vote. If you want to brainstorm by yourself, give it a try right now. At the end of this scene, we will present you with a problem. Once you get it, write 5 ideas in the comments below as fast as you can without much thinking. This unlocks your creativity and gets you past mental blocks. After you are done, read the comments from the others. Pick your favorite idea and build your thought on top of it. To do that, just reply to that person starting with yes and. Here's the problem. Our oceans are full of plastic waste. A lot of it is eaten by fish with uncertain effects on our health. According to The Economist newspaper, by 2050, the oceans could contain more plastic than fish, measured in weight. So, how can we reduce the plastic waste in our oceans today?
Good. Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to go back to the presentation. Yes. Okay. So this one has given us the breakdown of the ideation process and how it's important to have as many ideas as possible and planning them. So now yes, now we go to the next. Oh my God, I don't know what's happened to the green lines. Yes, just ignore the green lines on my screen. I don't know where they've come from. Yes, but this slide basically looks at the templates that we can use. So this is a template that helps you to generate ideas. And basically you cluster your idea. So what is the idea? You define what it is, the name of it, the concept of what it is, what you will need to be able to test, why that's a good idea, and what problem you're solving. So the idea is to have as many of this defined ideas. So on the next slide, this is the sample. So I want us to maybe talk through 2 concepts or ideas. So I'll try generate a hypothetical idea. Maybe one of you, is there anyone who has reached the ideation phase and has come up with some potential ideas? So then we can use those examples. You can throw it in the chat if any of you has any. And I can have a look. Oops. Okay, let me volunteer. We've not heard from who today. Francisca? Maybe you can tell us about your project. Do you have any ideas that you've come up with?
Hi, good morning.
Hello.
So my project seeks to address the issue of unemployment in the young people of Ghana. For me, I realized most of the young people during COVID break, when they stayed home, they were encouraged to learn a skill or learn a trade. But then the challenge now is how to monetize the skills or how to start using the skills they gained to make money for themselves so they become financially empowered. So one idea I caught is there will be a training this time, not to give them fresh skills, but then teach them how to monetize their skills by basically helping them seek funding, learning various ways they can get funding to start their project. So that is the idea. That's the basic idea I came up with at first. Thank you.
Okay, so basically linking young people to entrepreneurship opportunities. Okay.
More like that.
like that.
Yes, basically.
Yes, so I would say that is your, what do you call it? I'd call that the, if we go back to what we were saying, it's like the problem statement that you're working with. So what I would do if you want to move from there to ideas, it's very important now to ask yourself, okay, we want to move, we want to link young people to entrepreneurship opportunities. For example, now the next question is, how do you do that? Does anyone have ideas? For example, I would say in my case, if I thought of linking young people to entrepreneurship, I would say maybe provide internships. So then you maybe identify organizations or corporates in the technology space, for example, startups. Then you identify young people and you provide them maybe with 2 to 3 months internship. So that's like a high level idea. Can anyone else think of another idea? How else could you link young people to entrepreneurship? Yes, feel free to throw it in the chat. We're now practicing actually ideation. So I gave one idea of taking young people, linking them to entrepreneurship, and linking them to internships, let's say in technology startups within Nairobi, for example. So yes. So maybe Francesca, you can try. Is there any other ideas you've thought of and making it very specific? Maybe let me check who is
Hi,
there.
Francisca here. So one other idea that came up that I thought it was you was apprenticeship. So where they go to someone who is very established in the field they are interested in, and stay there as an apprentice for a few months, polish their skills and learn all the nitty-gritties whilst also on the job. So apprenticeship is one thing
That's also one idea. Great. Yes. Another idea, for example, I would have thought of is even creating a website, for example, and then posting opportunities for young people. That's also an idea as well. So yes, so when you're ideating, pretty much, it means not having just one idea. You come up with as many diverse ideas as possible, and then try to bring these ideas together, sort of. Anyone else who would like to share a different subject area? Okay, I can see Abba Dodo on the chat says, because this is more of teaching them how to monetize their skills, you can help them write proposals. Very good. For funding and training them on how to use social media to advertise their products. Very good. I can see Fiona Mfenga, expose them to different funding opportunities like government funding programs. Very good. That's another angle. That is, and then she's given a very specific example. South Africa has the NYDA, for example. So you see now, when you start ideating, what happens, you start to see many different angles, different people bring ideas. And what happens when you have different people bringing different ideas, you start to see so many different concepts that could actually be tested. So for example, in this case, we've thought of internships, we've thought of apprenticeship, we've thought of writing proposals, so helping them to improve their how they look for opportunities and grants, exposing them to funding. So you see, we already have three very solid, not very solid, but three distinct ideas, for example. Another thing that helps with brainstorming is do not do it alone. Always do brainstorming in groups, and make sure it's also good to have, when you have diverse people, then you have diverse opinion. For example, you can have a student in this case, there's a teacher, for example, yes, there's, who else? Let's say another student, for example, but basically it's good to do this in groups. So then you're all bringing different ideas. So I'll go to the next slide. So this is an example of an idea generation template. So you ask yourself, what's the idea name? For example, in this case, apprenticeship. What is the idea? Taking young people, linking them to organizations where they can learn under a mentor. What resources do you need? First of all, you need students themselves that you're linking. You need to identify organizations who would be willing to offer apprenticeship. We need to identify the mentors as well. And you say, why do you think this is a good idea? This could be, you think this is a good idea because, let's say, if you link young people through apprenticeship, then they're able to, improve their capacity, the work they do, and they're accessing opportunities, and they're growing, for example. So you have to really say why you think that idea is good and what you're going to achieve. So what problem are we trying to solve? In this case, it's the lack of opportunities for young people, for example. So it's always very good to rely on this structure to assess the ideas that one has actually come up with. So after you've ideated, you've come up with as many ideas as possible, what do you do next? So for this next section, we're looking at prioritization. How do you prioritize which idea is better than another one, for example? And how do you choose which one to proceed with and which ones to not? So we use this template. As you can see, it's called, it's basically, you're looking at impact versus effort. So one, impact is important. For example, I'll go back to the example project from Francisca, where we're looking at entrepreneurship for young people. So there's impact and there's effort. So this tool helps you to map out which idea takes less effort but has maybe little impact. For example, if I think of a website is low effort, and it's less impact. For example, I could make a website, but I don't know how many young people will be able to access that website, for example. If I decide to have an apprenticeship program, then that's high effort, but eventually it's going to give you high impact. So this tool basically helps you to prioritize which ideas to carry forward, and to also know how light or how heavy the work can be. So if you look at this example slide here, someone has put example, I think this, let's say, was maybe a campaign or something. So you can see on the low impact and high effort ideas are, for example, I'm assuming they have an existing website. So there's update the links, share them with company. That's low impact and it's low effort. If you look at something like having a social media press release, one-on-one influencer outreach on social media, that could be low impact, but it's high effort. On the other hand, when you look at ideas like posting on social media, creating a blog, sharing this blog out to directories or newsletters, that could potentially have high impact and it's low effort at the same time. When you look at something like redesigning a website, creating a whole video and posting this, and that can be high impact and high effort. So pretty much it helps you understand where your idea falls in the matrix and which ones have high impact. Pretty much this helps you prioritize. Because for example, if creating videos is too expensive and you don't have the money for it, then it's probably not probably not good to pursue that idea because it's too expensive to make, But if you look at something like a website, posting a social media campaign where you have a blog, you're updating and you're sharing it, it could be low effort, but the impact is still high. So maybe that is potentially a good angle to go with, for example. But it pretty much helps you to prioritize your ideas and where to place which idea. So now we look at the tool. So this is called concept development tool. And this template helps you to map out your idea, for example. So you could do this for all of the ideas you've chosen to progress forward. So I used an example of a project that I have worked on. So I'm just going to talk through that as an example. So in this case, what's the description of the idea, for example, that I come with? So I just said it's a film festival event to bring together people to have discussions on pressing social issues or challenges. That's what it is. Who's my target group? I'm targeting young people, the age of 15 to 35. I'm targeting adolescent girls and women. I'm targeting young people living in the informal settlements. or low-income communities. What problem am I addressing? So I'm looking at there's the lack of awareness and cross-community dialogues or people coming together to talk about social issues. So that's the problem I actually want to solve. And we're solving that through the idea of bringing people together and using films as a tool to watch and talk about some of these social issues. So what are the benefits of this idea? So the first thing, it's creating awareness on social or human rights issues. The second thing, I'm providing people with a space, with spaces where they can have dialogues. The third thing that I am doing is I'm encouraging partnerships or bringing people together to talk about issues and come up with their own ideas or solutions. So a new initiative could be born out of that. People could collaborate and have partnerships, those kind of things. So what complexities would we need to consider? So in this case, for me, one of the challenges is if you're reaching a wide reach of audience, some places can be very far to reach and very costly. So that's a complexity to consider for sure. Or even local languages. When you go to different communities, people speak different languages. So it's good to be aware of that complexity and design around it, for example. So who am I involving? Involving spaces that are willing to host these events, different organizations that are working within the human rights social challenge space, and also looking for partnerships with like-minded organizations. And in this case, I gave an example of a community or an organization called Nairobi Design Week. Yes. So that's just to give you an example. And I hope this makes sense as a template and as an example. So the idea is when each of you reach the point of ideation. So for example, for Francisca, when you talk about the idea of, what do you call it, apprenticeship. So you will come here and describe what is it. This is an apprenticeship program to connect young people with professionals in the industry or something like that. So who are you going to target? I'm assuming you'll target young youths, young people, maybe 15 to 35 as well. You will target professionals working in corporates, for example, because you're the one, you need them to be mentors, for example. What are you addressing? We talked about the lack of opportunities and awareness and the opportunities that are there in terms of entrepreneurship. So then you also break down and say, so what are the benefits of your idea? What complexities would we need to consider? I'll throw this as a question. So I can see Samuel. Samuel, are you able to contribute? And maybe if you were able to hear Francisca's idea, what would you say would be the benefit of her coming up with an apprenticeship program, for example? Samuel, can you hear us? If not Samuel, I can see Guaya, are you able to contribute? Okay, any volunteer? Anyone can volunteer?
Or maybe we could listen to Billy.
Okay.
Billy and Artin.
Great. Okay.
Billy, Artin, and Martin. Or Paul. Paul is so full. Guys, are you in this meeting? Go ahead, Paul.
Oh, yeah, please come again. I didn't understand the question. I didn't get it.
Sarah, he's asking you to repeat the question.
Okay. So the question is, So we had Francisca's project that talks about entrepreneurship, and one of the ideas she mentioned was creating an apprenticeship or mentorship program for young people. So taking young people and connecting them to mentors in the professional space. So for example, maybe if people are interested in learning banking, for example, you connect them to a banker and they go through a 3-month mentorship program, for example. So the question was, what are the benefits of that idea? Why is that a good idea? And what will be the outcome, the benefit of it? No, hello, can you hear? Or are you just putting it on the chat?
Or did you get explanation?
I'm sorry, I think that we are all facing like a networking problem. Because for me, it cuts. I hear just some parts and not the other parts. And I think the other ones also are facing maybe the same problems.
Okay, I think we'll just continue. Okay, yes. So there's another, and the other section is, how would people know about the idea? So you clarify that out. In my example, I say publicizing through social media platforms, considering partnerships with maybe local media, TV and radio stations, having community mobilizers to create awareness, for example. And then it's also important to define what success looks like. And in this case, achieving a physical audience of 2,000 plus people, an organic reach of 10,000 plus people via social media platforms, getting positive feedback from participants, as well as following up on creation of new partnerships, for example. Yeah, so pretty much that is the end of it. I hope we're going to share these slides because I'm aware a lot of people have had challenges with the connection. But I'd just like to hear from 1 or 2 or 3 of you. Someone's asking me, Samuel. Oh, sorry, please. Samuel, can you hear me now? I'm just going to confirm. Okay, I'd like to hear maybe from 1 or 2 people. What was like your main takeaway? We'll share the slides so you can check them in your free time and then get to read what wasn't understood. Yes, but it would be nice to just get 2 or 3 comments before we can wrap it up. Any volunteers?
Hi, Sarah. Francisca here.
Okay.
So my takeaway for today is on the brainstorming. And the first part where you gather those who are going to be the beneficiaries of the intervention, and as much as possible to keep away stakeholders so the beneficiaries or participants can freely express themselves without feeling intimidated in any way. That is my take home for today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Samuel, I can see your hand up.
Hello, Sarah.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm right because I didn't have hear all this. I didn't get all the information from the session, but what I've get like the most important that I can use for my project is that the brainstorming. While watching the video, I've got new ideas that I can use for my project, because the last time that I went on research for my project, I've had a lot of problem for people like in the most affected area, like to talk to me. They didn't want to talk about the problem, and now with the video of the brainstorming, I've seen and I've got some ideas that I can use for them to speak to me and talk about the problem. So thank you.
Okay, great. Yes, okay. So I think that's good. I'll share the slide, and we're also going to share a Google form with some questions that are going to help you through the process. So let's consider it a form of survey / assignment that will also help us to really give you ideas or input. So then it will be very short, 5 questions maximum, asking questions on the different cases. Based on the information you share back, we can share back those information to give you the project. So I'll pass this back to Lawrence now. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for the session today, Sarah. Colleagues, I also just want you to, if you can, unmute your mic or just use reaction to extend an appreciation to Sarah for today's session. Sarah, this should be your last presentation for this model, right? Sarah?
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. I think we have a few more sessions to go. I'll just confirm on the schedule, and then I'll let you know.
Yeah, sure. Let's just let's chat. Okay. So I wish you a really pleasant weekend. Let's keep engaging in the group chat. I really appreciate the fact that some of you are grabbing the lessons and you're really following. And I think it's a really good sign for future growth. Let's keep it up, colleagues. Thank you so much, Sarah, and thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye.
You too. Bye.
Bye.